imagine there's anything but good times and celebrating going on at the NBA offices in New York, New York. You get, on the Western Conference side, 2 nights ago, a playoff game for the ages, right? Double overtime. 2 teams already quite good. One, the defending champion. The other, already threatening it with the most unique player probably who's ever played the game. And then last night, you get one of the great, depending on how you want to look at it, comebacks or collapses in recent playoff memory. The New York Knickerbockers, I still can't believe it, they knocked off the surprisingly plucky through 3 quarters Cleveland Cavaliers. That game also went into OT. I haven't seen the overnights, but I have to believe in both cases they're going to be monstrous. Knicks were down 93-71 in the final quarter. And over the last 12 minutes and 49 seconds, they outscore the Cavs at the Garden 44-11 to win the game in overtime. And if you care about, well, this isn't really an analytic. This is just a straight stat, I believe. Teams trailing by 22 points or more in the fourth quarter of a playoff game since 1997-98 entered the game with a record of 1-594. 1-594. It is now 2-594. Stunning is what it was. And dramatic. And again, I feel like a lot of it had to do with Cleveland's dysfunction. But if you're running the league, it doesn't matter, right? You have back-to-back outstanding, compelling theater. Whether you want to call it a choke, as Charles Barkley did, or you want to call it one of the great comebacks, a masterful effort by the Knicks to not give up the way, for example, the Wolves did in their Game 6.
Yep.
I will grant against Cleveland might not be quite as good a team as San Antonio, Davey. By the way, we didn't even talk about this yesterday. Castle was unbelievable in the Wolves series, and at times in Game 1 was tremendous. But did you also notice that he committed 11 turnovers?
Was that the number?
11.
Yeah.
And what it did remind me of, though, is that might mean that if you exert the right kind of pressure,
right,
in the right kind of way, often enough, that maybe some of their inexperience will show up. Because we were all lauding the Spurs, saying, well, they obviously don't care how young they are. Well, maybe we weren't delivering as consistently as we like to believe based on our defensive reputation, the kind of defense, the kind of looks even, that got to them a little bit. Because that's a lot of turnovers. I think they had, as a team, 25?
Yeah, it wasn't
23
clean.
to 25, so it wasn't clean at all. But and again, the Garden, I know people roll their eyes, they get tired of it. Us, the Garden, we're happy for you, the greatest place. But it is a special place. The history there is unbelievable. I don't need to see all the celebrities, I'll grant you that.
Mm-hmm. Stephon Marbury was there.
That's the one that just is bizarre to me. It's amazing.
He's from Coney Island, Dan.
Is he?
Yeah, he's from the city.
Had so many great moments with the Knicks. So many great moments with the Knicks. But yeah, they show them all pretty much. But it was, and I mean, again, timeouts can be overrated, but I think we're all screaming at the TV and saying, if you're Atkinson, you have to use at least one of them. You are required. He almost seemed frozen.
Yeah.
I mean, like he was so stunned by it, he didn't even know how to react to it. Now, I don't think he's wrong when he says they were a little unlucky, because they had a couple shots, including at the end of regulation.
Mike Breen had the bang out his mouth.
It was down, man, and it came out. And I think one of their big men missed both free throws during the fourth quarter comeback.
The Knicks had a 3 go in and out and back in.
Yeah, a la Kawhi.
Yep. Cat tried to mess it up.
Yes, he did.
He tried to mess it up. They overcame a big-time Cat mistake.
Yes, that's true.
And he got a million rebounds, and he's playing
talking about
well.
the grab?
Yes.
Yeah, on the arm?
What are you doing? And
that's a Cat move.
Totally.
That's one of the things that, would drive people crazy.
Totally.
I'd still take him, when you put the good with the bad, but that a lot of people are talking about that. If Cleveland ends up winning that game, then it's all about that play.
It could
be. Cat would have gotten crucified.
Yes.
He even now gets ripped way too often in New York. So that would have been crazy.
Yeah, I think Cleveland missed on the ensuing possession because I think they were down 4 at the time and had the ball to be down 2 or 1.
But didn't it take away a foul that would have gone against? I thought on that play,
I'm not
there
sure.
was a challenge.
Maybe.
And there had been a legitimate foul, but they were saying this foul happened first, I thought. Maybe I'm wrong.
Just the fact that they had all the momentum and Cat halted it right there.
Yes.
Cleveland didn't score, though, and then I think New York came down and hit a 3, if I remember right, something like that. But it was just one of those classic things where, as well as he's played, the team is making this heroic surge, and then it just briefly screeched to a halt because of a very preventable offensive foul.
Yeah.
Brunson was pretty good.
Brunson was
going to the basket.
When he's got it going, you want to talk about fearlessness? We were talking about that earlier in general managers. He is fearless. And again, like with general managers, sometimes that can be to his team's detriment because the ball cannot leave his hands. That's been the great revolution for the team, that during this great playoff run so far, Towns they've run a lot of the offense through Towns. It's not gone the usual way where it's Brunson. The nickname, of course, is Brunson Burner in New York. But what you got to say about him is sometimes that single-mindedness of his kind of saves the team because he was that good. They continued to find ways to put Harden in the action. And sadly, Cleveland did not figure out, and their head coach, any good way to do anything about that. And Harden, again, he actually had a couple of decent plays, but there's stretches where it's tough. There's no question that it's tough to watch. And you're back to, all right, who's the other guard?
Donovan Mitchell.
Mitchell was the reason they were in complete control of that game, and then he barely saw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're back to, again, you can't possibly be that afraid of James Harden at this point if you're the head coach, can you? Because if you are, you're failing as a head coach. You have to be able to say, next 3 possessions, we're running it through the other guy, right? Because Mitchell was the guy last night at some key point. He had it going. And how did he have it going? Ball not getting sticky. He went to the basket, sometimes for himself, sometimes for other people. And what did we see? We see it every time. We see it with the Wolves. When your offense starts drying up, no passes, maybe 1 pass. Even if the coach can say, do you remember? Let me show you these 6 plays on this computer screen from the quarter before. And you see how the ball moved? And you see what kind of good shots we got, especially our big men around the basket? And they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Game was over, but Harden had one of those vintage just throw the ball away for no reason turnovers in the lane, too. He tried to throw it over his head in the lane.
Yes.
It's like, I get it was probably over at that point, but that was kind of the dagger. To defend the coach a little bit, because I was thinking the same thing, at some point, even to not let him, I think Finch has actually improved on this a little bit. When you're up 20 and all of a sudden it gets to 14, just call a quick one right there, just to settle it down a little bit, because you're still up a sizable amount, and
Correct.
They were up, as you mentioned, 22, I think. So you could even say 22 to 16 or 15 and go, all right, we're going to call one quick before the burner gets activated and the garden goes crazy, because the hesitation is, if I call a timeout, that's going to take the crowd to an even better level. It's going to unravel my guys even more. And he's probably thinking, I've got James Harden, who's 50, and Donovan Mitchell, who's not that much younger, who's been around a long time, has played in some big playoff games. These 2 guys should be able to figure it out on their own a little bit.
That's true.
They shouldn't have.
They should.
They shouldn't. But at
there's
some
a reason
point,
somebody's a coach.
You're right. At some point, when the building is on fire and you are unraveling, you do have to throw a lifeline just to try anything different.
Well, and that gets back to the timeouts, where you say, I'm going to help you out a little bit. Because even if you're a Hall of Fame, even Hall of Fame players sometimes need a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a directional change. Or if you want to buy the old cliche, it's just maybe they lose a little momentum during this 8-minute timeout because there's a lot of commercials these days. And maybe us just sitting for a while and them sitting for a while, they'll lose a little of that thread that they have going where they suddenly think they are unstoppable because that arena, that gym was dead. The Knicks were dead. And I don't care what, any of the Cavs players, the head coach said after. You're done. It's over. You had, I don't think, a great chance to win the series, but you probably had one chance to win the series, and you lost that last night. There's no, I'm with Charles Barkley. I don't think there'll be any recovery. New York's better. Cleveland can be problematic when they get good things going, but you cannot give away a game like that. I don't care if it, the cliche about, it's only one game. Wouldn't it matter if we were up 30 and blew the lead or not, whatever. It's just one game. They still got to win 3. No. You're saying that to try to convince yourself, and because that's how you have to think, but their window of opportunity lasted one game. And they had a great chance to, at the very least, I think, get the attention of the Knicks, right?
Yes.
And say,
make it interesting.
And make it interesting, and that, I'm afraid, is gone. Game 2 tonight, and the big question, I guess, is whether the Spurs will feel so good about their position that they'll play it safe on Fox and have him sit tonight. I've not seen any late reporting on that. Have you?
I haven't. Hopefully by the top 5, we'll have a little bit.
Yeah.
That's usually about the time it pops out. We've got a 7:30 tip-off time tonight in Oklahoma City.
Is it 7:30 Central?
Mm-hmm.
Even better. All right, let's get a pause in. I got a couple of A-Section stories to discuss. One of them kind of a follow-up from yesterday. Did we talk about Royce Lewis yesterday?
We did not.
I guess that's worth a mention. Twins win today.
They did.
Yeah.
4-1, I think the final was.
And there was a couple other items that we might indeed want to discuss. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. There's also, did you see the little Adrian Peterson nugget that I don't think was from the PA interview, but I think maybe a different conversation?
I don't think I did.
The question is whether there's going to be a new war of words between Adrian Peterson and a former Minnesota Vikings coach. Stay tuned.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrero.
Pat Kessler in about 1 hour. James writes, would it be worth the Timberwolves kicking the tires on Zion Williamson as a Randle replacement this offseason? And would it be possible for them to make that trade almost straight up? I'm not interested in those kinds of experiments. I feel similarly for different reasons about the Ja Morant fixation. I get it. You could probably get him cheap. I don't know that you could get Zion cheap. I think they just hired a new coach.
The old Orlando coach, I think.
Exactly.
Yep.
Zion, I just, he's missed almost every game he's ever played in.
I know.
I can't do it. I'm sorry.
He's such an interesting player in theory.
Yes, and that's the problem. That's the kind of he's the kind of tease that gets coaches and general managers fired. No, I wouldn't entertain it. I guess if you have good researchers and you got people say, well, no, we know exactly why he's missed as many games as he has and we can fix it. But I just don't think there's any realistic fix that would make some sense there. Now, there is some national steam following up on the story we talked about, I believe, Monday with Johnny, that who was the national reporter who reported this? He's got a good rep, suggesting that behind the scenes, Anthony Edwards is lobbying for Kyrie Irving, for the Wolves to try to acquire him. And that was a name we discussed with Johnny on Monday, still not knowing where Dallas is on any of that. By the way, we all thought Micah Nori, was going to safely return here because we didn't think there were any other jobs available. But then the Dallas Mavericks job opened up, and allegedly he's on their list.
Interesting.
Micah Nori, at least on their list. But there was another Kyrie story indicating that the Wolves would be Kyrie's preferred, one of, I guess, 2 or 3 preferred franchises to land at. Don't know how accurate that is either.
I think that one it was like a recirculation of
an old one
when he was traded the last time or one of the last times that he was.
That's what he said then.
The Wolves were apparently on a list.
So we don't know if that's current.
Correct.
And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's lobbying to get him. As in Anthony, that wouldn't surprise me. But you got to find out whether Dallas is in that mood. They've got new, leadership at the top, and what it would take. But it's worth, I guess, mentioning, at least throwing out there.
Can I tell you what Masai Ujiri said about Kyrie's future with the Mavs today?
Oh, he spoke today?
Because that just popped up. Actually, should we just play it?
Yeah, if you got it, sure.
I've got it pulled up.
Why
here.
not?
I haven't listened to it, so hopefully we're not getting like send-held or something, but I think we're good here.
All right.
Obviously, Cooper sort of tops the list of what you're building around.
Dean Blevins, News 9.
From our point of view, that Jason and Kyrie were a good fit, and I just wonder, from your point of view, how important is Kyrie in this process in terms of, a coach that might help him, be a good fit for him, those kinds of things?
Kevin Durant once told me that there's only one Kyrie walking around in the world. Yeah, I think we have to figure out a way, how Kyrie fits with our program. And I've had those conversations with Kyrie up till yesterday. And I think Kyrie will fit. As I said it before, there's a huge curiosity in our minds to see how Kyrie fits playing with Cooper Flag. He's just that kind of like an incredible talent and player. And I think we owe this organization that I'm sorry that it could not happen with Jason Kidd. He has the ultimate respect, I think, for Jason Kidd. I'm not even going to speak for Kyrie and relationship, and I take responsibility for this decision. But my goal is to put him in a place where he's successful here.
Good answer. I don't think it means anything necessarily, because even if you deep down want to attract suitors, that's exactly how you do it, right? You say, well, you act like there's definitely a place. We love them. You salute them. You compliment them. So I don't think it's impossible that he means it and that he ends up staying. I don't think that's impossible, even though there's the obvious, age disparity there. Where is it gonna all come together at the same time? They're in a very different place, you could say, than the Wolves are, for example. But a smart answer that I don't think necessarily means anything about the future. We were talking about this with Conley earlier, Tim Conley. Part of where these guys do earn the big bucks is their imaginations. And the assumption is they know things, because it's their job to know things, about players that we haven't even thought about as available or as part of a package, right? And so that's also where the best GMs in a situation like what the Wolves are in right now, why they get paid so handsomely, is what they can envision, what their imagination can come up with. That's not the obvious stuff, because Kyrie is obvious, right? Kawhi Leonard, I guess, to a degree, is obvious. Durant, I don't know. My sense on that is that I'm not even sure the Wolves would still be interested. I don't even know how I feel about Durant after this last season. He can still score, obviously,
sure.
but
yeah.
And he allegedly likes the idea of playing, or has in the past expressed a desire to play with Edwards, or would certainly live with that. But there may be other things that are actually smarter, that aren't as maybe splashy, or maybe just as splashy, but we just don't know other teams that have reached a point where they decide that one of their better players no longer fits, or we might want to make a change too. So that's what is going to make this, I think, this offseason so fascinating. I do think the tough spot that Conley is in is when he speaks the way he did yesterday, and when there is as much, open speculation about the need for this team to do something significant, not just fine-tune, then you run the risk of, well, what if you don't come up? What if you can't get anything done? That's going to be, I think, a rude awakening for the organization, even for Conley, and certainly for the fans too, correct? That he's not giving any indication that this is a stay-the-course offseason for him.
Right.
And once you sort of establish that expectation, that's where it can get rough. And that doesn't mean you do something just to do something, but I think there'd be a great deal of disappointment if basically this team comes back pretty much intact, or there's just a couple of moves around the edges that really don't have all that much to do with the main moody players that you have on the roster.
Does the name DeJounte Murray mean anything to you?
Yeah, well, we've talked about him before. Mm-hmm. Yes.
At different times.
Yes.
Before he was traded, he's been traded a couple of times.
That's correct.
He's coming off an Achilles.
That's right, the Achilles.
He hurt his Achilles in January.
Yeah.
He was having, now again, numbers can be deceiving, but a very good year for New Orleans. 17 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. And that name has been circulated on if the Kyrie thing doesn't work out, because you need a guard, and they've allegedly been interested in him before. Is that a decent fallback where you'd have to give a pick probably and a bunch of other stuff, but also have him as part of a Randall trade? You know what I mean? To move one guy out and try to fill a hole that way. Well,
stay tuned. I think it's going to be. It's going to be one of these off seasons where there are going to be a million irresponsible rumors.
Absolutely.
And that's sometimes the fun of it, but it also, many of them are irresponsible or just kind of thrown out there. I don't know. I mean, Kendrick Perkins is already on record saying that the Wolves have to go get Giannis. Then again, he had us winning the series after we won Game 1, and so he kind of flies all over the map too.
He does.
And Giannis is going to be expensive. I rule nothing out. I really don't. I rule nothing out in terms of the bigness of it, but I do think there will be an effort to do something significant, and I'll be pretty gobsmacked if Julius Randle starts the upcoming season, with your Timberwolves club. I've not seen anything like. A lot of these reporters have a lot of sources, including with good relationship with players, and I haven't seen anything even back channel emerge on Julius. Have you? In terms of his reaction, because he's becoming the sacrificial lamb, right? He's the guy who is viewed as the biggest problem for the Wolves in the moodiness scale, and eventually players in that position surface, even if it's off the record, to fire back or whatever the case may be. That's going to be another one of the interesting stories to indeed watch. We do need to stay on schedule. So let me get a break in, and I'll mention, let's get to a follow-up from yesterday. Top 5 at 5 is yet to come today. Kessler is expected in studio as well at about 5:30 this evening. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
That's not what I want. This is what I want. We were talking about the Star Tribune pieces that dropped over the weekend regarding what they describe as newly obtained FBI interviews having to do with the Feeding Our Future scandal, the scandal that will never end. One postscript that I didn't get to yesterday because we talked about in depth the conclusion further reinforced by this reporting is that the people in leadership positions were terrified simply with just a simple mention of racism being the accusation that was going to be thrown their way, that's pretty much all it took. Didn't matter what evidence that they might have been able to find on these regarding these individual businesses. The fear is so palpable there that that's all it took for saying, well, no, that's what some of these groups are saying. Well, we're done. We're done. Get out of there. Don't even, no drive-by, nothing. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Sad but true. And one of the, you could say whistleblowers is Jenny Butcher, who worked in the Minnesota Department of Education for 25 years. She retired in 2024. She told federal investigators in May 2022 that abuse in the meals program was, quote, an open secret. And she noted that she was warned not to do anything that would be considered targeting or discriminating against certain diverse communities. So in other words, she was told, don't follow the story. Don't follow the evidence if it involves individuals from diverse communities. It's such an embarrassment. But the kicker here, the postscript is, as the Star Tribune points out, Butcher, who is married to a black immigrant from Barbados, said such insinuations were offensive to her. It's just, I just thought that was an interesting postscript, that the willingness to run from the story that quickly and that gutlessly. And one of the individuals here is saying, really? Does that even fit? If you want to make it about this, it shouldn't be, but if you want to make it about this, does that fit my profile? Is that something, given my own relationship, that I'm likely to necessarily be going down that road or being accused of exactly that? Thought it was an interesting addition to the Star Tribune. Very good reporting on this particular story. One other item, Guardsy, did you see? It's one of those heart-wrenching stories, and now apparently we have an arrest. This is a Minneapolis story. Minneapolis police saying that 2 suspects are now in custody in connection with an attempted auto theft that turned deadly. This happened last Friday.
The coffee shop owner.
Correct. 43rd Avenue South near East 54th Street. This quote story was from NPR. And police said 38-year-old Amos Ferrier confronted 2 people who were trying to steal his vehicle. The police, in a news release, saying the suspects abandoned the attempted theft and ran to the vehicle they'd arrived in. As the suspects attempted to flee, the victim was either struck by the suspect's vehicle or jumped onto the hood. The suspects continued driving evasively, causing the victim to be thrown from the hood of the vehicle and sustain a serious head injury. The suspects fled. The victim died from his injuries at a hospital on Sunday. And authorities announced yesterday, actually last night, that 2 women, ages 18 and 19, were arrested in St. Paul for alleged involvement in the incident. Police did not provide further details. Now, there may be more. I looked about 2 hours ago. There may be more on the internet now. I'm not sure. Charges are indeed pending. There's a quote from police chief. The loss suffered by the family and loved ones in this horrific incident cannot be undone, O'Hara said in a news release, but the apprehension of those believed to be responsible brings hope that justice will be achieved. I'm grateful for the coordinated efforts of investigators and community members that led to these arrests. He was a veteran, internship director at the Minneapolis nonprofit Every Third Saturday, which helps vets find new purpose after their military service. The nonprofit operates Rick's Coffee Bar, which employs veterans and serves as a gathering place for veterans and the surrounding community not far from the Minneapolis VA. And there are stories and pictures of the victim, in this case, Amos being the victim. Now a memorial along the street with American and American Legion flags. It's unspeakable. Correct? It's one of those stories, and we've talked about this before. How do we decide which story mobilizes, or I should say moves us to rage, to anger, to escalating the story to a place where we say, we got to talk about this. This can't be tolerated. This can't just be, well, okay, bad things happen from time to time. What determines the stories that turn into bigger issues? Demonstrating, holding press conferences, politicians holding press conferences. Because it's exactly the kind of story in which if we don't emphasize it and give it its proper due, we all lose a little bit of our humanity, I think. Just sort of saying like, well, it was, it wasn't like he was a targeted individual. It doesn't matter. Guy's working. He sees his truck is about to be stolen. An all too common occurrence in the city of Minneapolis. And you'd say in a perfect world, you'd say, let him have it. I'm not going to, it's too dangerous. But for whatever reason, he wasn't willing and interested to do that. And now he's gone. His life's gone. There's no coming back from this. And it's gotten reported locally. I'm not saying that it has been ignored. But it hasn't seemingly mobilized emotion the way some stories do. And a lot of those stories needed to. This one should too. And it's almost like it's a shrug of the shoulders. Not as maybe because there's not a specific message that a politician believes he or she can use. I don't know. But there should be people, even if it's stating the obvious, making the point that this is the sort of thing that we should not. There's a lot of things we declare we shouldn't tolerate in Minneapolis, rightly. This is another one that we should. It's not going to change the story, but we still believe it's important to make these statements. And maybe I've missed a bunch. Maybe there have been a bunch of them. I don't know. But I don't think there's been near the attention that this thing deserves, that this story merits. And the sad reality is there are a lot of people out there who go, oh, it's property. We hear this all the time. It's property. It's not good, but no. We've given up too much if that's the philosophy and that's the attitude. There is no excuse for it. None whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. There's still a lot of details that are yet to be known, and there'll be chances to get back to the story as a result. But a horrific story that I sort of sense is coming and going a little bit too soon, and I hope that's not the case. Top 5 will include
the final 5 for your Minnesota Vikings general manager, a good start by Joe Ryan, and an impending finish for Aaron Rodgers.
You're listening